Ach so. Das hilft, was du da machst. Jetzt ist fast schon zu laut, glaube ich. Ich muss ein bisschen warten, weil ihr Black im
All right. And we're back for the graduated cut. So the top 64, if we're strictly speaking. Still, perhaps the stream might be a little bit laggy because the connection over here at the castle is frankly atrocious. But it should at least be working right now, and I'm going to be trying to at least say what's going on so you can follow along. And hopefully the connection is going to improve over the course of the stream. Okay. So... All right. All right. So we have Alexander Trigonakis, a very well beloved player in the Game of Thrones scene on the left-hand side. And I mean, I don't personally know Atanas on the right-hand side here, but sure he's also a stellar dude. So best of luck to both of them. And already a couple of interesting things here. We're seeing a Knights of the Hollow Hill mirror matchup, and as you might expect, nothing happened on the first turn. So that's a thing. But I think Alex has to be feeling quite confident in his position right now. There is a Heron Hall on Atanas' side of the board, but Alex has the Iron Throne, and I talked with him about the game very briefly, about his matchup very briefly before we came up to the castle, and he said the most important card in the matchup is the Iron Throne, because the Iron Throne allows you to control the pace of the game and shuts down the most valuable cards. So, a nice pull here from Alex. I'm fairly sure that he probably just kept the hand because of that. Although, of course, the contents of his hand might also just otherwise have been very, very good and potent. But I guess we'll see that as the game unfolds. This game is very interesting in a sense, and that's one of the reasons why we decided to bring it to you. Because it's a pure control matchup, and so that means that a lot of cards that are usually very valuable for these decks are gonna be just useless. Like, for example, we saw Alex flip his restricted plot on the first turn because it doesn't have very much value here. He doesn't expect to gain much out of it, and so these control matchups are almost always about making the best out of your useless cards. So if you your good cards in the control matchups are basically the draw cards, the plots that allow you to filter through your deck and search for cards, like we saw here from Atanas on the right-hand side, and cards that allow you to generate card advantage continually, those are pretty much the cards you want to be looking for. And then, as I already mentioned, the other part of the game is usually to make the best of the cards that are not very good against other control decks and find spots to use them to your advantage. Of course, the time limit for these games is still 55 minutes. I think every game has a time limit of 55 minutes up to the final. So, even though it's a control matchup, it's kind of important to keep track of the time. And usually, if you play on Iron Throne, for example, a control matchup will usually go to the deck that has the better endgame condition, the better win condition, or recursion theme, or what have you. But here it becomes a lot more intricate because now you're actually being rewarded for doing challenges. You can't just sit there and outlast the opponent for the entirety of the game and then win on card advantage. That doesn't work quite that way because at some point you're just going to run out of time. Let me just check real quick. Okay. Seems like we're still online. That's a relief. All right. Seems like both players are off to a fairly good start here, so it's promising. Looks promising so far. I think it's going to be quite interesting how these players choose to navigate this matchup. It's a really skill-testing matchup, so looking forward to it. We see return to the fields there in Alex's plot deck. And one of the things you can really expect on these first couple of turns is the players blasting through these plots at a rapid speed because there's not a whole lot going on the board, so usually there aren't going to be many or any challenges in these first couple of plots. And that makes a game go on very fast, but of course also there's not much happening, and gives it kind of an intriguing dynamic. And that's a political disaster against the Marched. It's very good. I think the Marched plus the Heron Hall actually working very well in tandem here. Kind of forcing Trigonakis to play around the Heron Hall, but then he can't really develop a lot of different characters onto the board, which means he was open for the March there. I think I was quite well handled by Atanas. Let's see which threats Alex is going to present this turn. That's a lot of gold. Alright, another army. Okay. It's just a good dude. And yeah, this time Atanas is going to pull the trigger there. Which I think will give Alex some pause. Maybe he'll consider that Atanas is not running a second march now. Because what did change from last turn really? If he had another march, why wouldn't he just go for that? But now, of course, that opens up the board for Kotho because he cannot be killed anymore. And discarding a Drogon, which is useful, but not not very key. Oh, and I mean that explains why he used the Heron Hall, I guess. Here's another Heron Hall. That's fair enough. I guess sometimes the solutions are simpler than one might expect. Also, by the way, just to point you at a little subtlety, Alex used Crowther in the marshalling phase there to play around an Iron Throne to make sure that he could play a character no matter what. In this case, Crowther, because if Atanas draws the Iron Throne and plays it, then Alex doesn't get to do a challenge because he can't put Crowther into play anymore. And now here we see Atanas just spending his resources, kind of expending one of his expendable characters to prevent Alex from gaining a power, which is certainly valid. Legitimate use here for the Arbor Watchman, who doesn't really contribute much in this matchup, I believe. Don't think, at least up till now, Alex hasn't shown any Shadows cards. I think one of the main reasons Alex chose the line where he plays around the Iron Throne is because if I guess he didn't technically know about the second Heron Hall at that point. Okay, guess I was just running my mouth there. All right. And I mean, these control matchups are very much about using your cards efficiently. So you saw Atanas had to discard to reserve anyway, so might as well use one of your characters to prevent the one unopposed power there. And there's a Valor. But Alex has the return to the field. Nicely done. And usually you're not very happy about a return to the fields for one, but here literally every card counts, which is kind of amusing because these players are going to be drawing a lot of cards. They have a lot of ways to generate card advantage, and they're going to be discarding to reserve even, but still every card matters, and that's what makes this kind of matchup very intricate. And frankly, this is the style of Thrones I like to watch. Very uncomplicated board states, but very high-level strategic decision-making, just trading off blows one for one. And over time, the better player should make better decisions overall and come out ahead in more of these little scuffles that happen, and pull ahead that way. So now Alex is presenting one Freedman as a threat this turn. And Atanas is not having it. He's not gonna use the Heron Hall on that one, it appears. Which is fair, I suppose. And that's a fairly good character in this matchup, a begging brother. But doesn't do a whole lot here. and it's probably gonna. Yeah, I was gonna say it's gonna find an untimely end if he doesn't use the Heron Hall. All right. So, Alex trades the Jorah Mormont for the Heron Hall there. I think that's an okay trade. Of course, he would have much preferred to get the military challenge through there, but you can't have it all. I think all things considered, Alex still comes out ahead in this particular turn because he could save Kotho. And now he, unless Atanas finds another Heron Hall and goes first, he gets to at least have a free marshalling phase, which is obviously quite nice. One of the things we have to watch for, though, is now Atanas has used his reset, which is usually the most useless card in this sort of matchup, and Alex hasn't used Vala yet, so that's still sort of a weak point that is yet to come for Alex. I think a very intelligent play would be to delay Vala and make it so that a good turn to Vala is turn 7, because then you don't have to flip it back and use it in your second plot rotation, which can very well mean that you don't have to flip it a second time. Of course, that means that in the case that Atana suddenly explodes onto the board with a lot of characters, it's going to be much harder for Alex to deal with it. So you really need to have a game plan in place for that if you want to flip Vala on the 7th plot. But I think since Alex has First Snow of Winter in his deck, I think that could be a very valid line for him here. Alright. So far, actually, Alex has done an excellent job at dodging these Arbor Guardsmen with his shadow cards, or single shadow card up to this point. But now the threats are on Atanas' side, and it's up to Alex to answer them. Let's see if he has some appropriate answers for this. I mean, I see a milk there for Alex, so if he wants to do anything with character abilities this turn, I suppose the milk is going to go on the Begging Brother. And, I mean, if he has a Shadows card, it might go on the Arbor Guardsman as well. And there it is. Oh, the double milk. Alright. Oh, he still has 3 gold. Okay, okay. Then that's alright. I thought he only had 2 gold left after that. Not sure what you name here. Probably something like... I don't know. Either Bolton Flayer, because he has a card in Shadow, so that is very likely a Bolt Flayer with 2 gold left. Or you name Winter is Coming if you're worried about the 2-claim intrigue. I think Bolton Flayer might be the safest bet here. Of course, we can't hear what he actually named. But I'm assuming it's the Bolton Flayer. Let's see if he wants to defend this challenge. As I already mentioned, every power is so valuable that even just stealing the 1 power here can actually be game winning, which is very unusual. But I think Alex has identified this and is trying to do something about it. Oh well, I guess he doesn't get to defend the challenge if it is actually power. If it's intrigue, he gets to defend the challenge, of course. But I would assume it's power. Oh, but he has a... the Iron Bank will have its due in his hand, so that will give him much more gold and allow him to do more challenges. But this is interesting. This was an intrigue challenge, okay. Interesting choice there to go for the intrigue. I don't believe the intrigue claim matters as much right now against Alex, so kind of curious about that one. Oh. And there's the return. Getting some much needed gold, and that gives him room for all sorts of shenanigans. There's an unexpected return there. I'm not quite sure if I saw a blood of my blood. I don't think so. So it's probably going to be the unexpected return. Let's see if Atanas has figured it out, or if it's indeed going to be unexpected. But not before Aegon bites the dust. And we're currently at 2 power for Atanas and 1 power for Alex. Drogon is actually a fine choice here. Clears the board and puts the onus back on Atanas to do something about the board state. So they kind of bounce back and forth of each other between the rounds. Some rounds one plays the aggressor, then the other player answers the threats, and then he's the aggressor. And and there's a put to the torch as well, which is some location control, which means that he actually gets to wipe Atanas' board completely, and that's a pretty big blow. Nicely done there. Waiting patiently for his chance to strike, and he manufactured a beautiful line here that I believe puts him firmly in the driver's seat now with 5 power. Oh, haha. I thought the 1 power token on his agenda was supposed to be power, but I guess it's these red tokens on a red background, just on the house card above that. So actually 5 power for Alex here. Okay. Looks fairly convincing now. And yes, it looks like Alex indeed named Bolton Flare there during the challenge phase. But of course Atanas still has 2 gold in the dominance phase, so he gets to bring out the Bolton Flare anyway. And now gets to go first because he has fewer power tokens on his house card. Now this is going to be interesting. This is not easy to deal with, especially because Alex gets to remove one of the cards that could really help Atanas here. I am fairly certain that you just name passing the black gate here, because if Atanas can only play like 1 or 2 cards, that's not too scary. If you can drop his entire hand, that might be a little bit scary. But yeah, this way even the ward isn't too scary. But the Shiba is of course very nice. Gives him some board presence and allows him to put another character in play as well. Alright. Yeah. Really, Atanas needed to convert as many of his cards as he can into actual board position this turn. I think that was not half bad what he did there. But now it's Alex's turn. And after this turn, it's going to be back to pretty much square one. with both players having you win or you die revealed. I say pretty much back to square one because they get to keep a card, of course, because of Knights of the Hollow Hill. Oh, and only military icons so far for Alex. This is kind of unfortunate for him. Might eat 2 challenges here. But he still has a card in Shadows, so... Fortunately, Aegon is dead, so he can't bring that out of Shadows. But it might be Shadow Black Assassin, which could get rid of the Freedman if they decide to do a challenge on their own. And we're gonna see what's gonna happen. Okay, it's just a blank full strength dude with a military and an intrigue icon, discarding one of his many copies, I believe, of Dario Najeros that he currently has in hand. And something on the table is vibrating. Let's see if Alex actually has some burn. I think if he has some burn, he's in a fairly decent spot, because that means he can convert more cards into an actual advantage. I think the power challenge is the most important here. Yeah, and he has some burn. Nice. And Missandei as well. That's really good for Alex. And I mean, Drogon, of course, wants to do cleanup duty, but it's also nice to have him on defense here. Makes it tricky for Atanas to do a military challenge and actually win it. Of course, if Atanas has a Winter is Coming and gets off a 3-claim military challenge, that's still gonna be quite scathing. Yeah, and there it is. Well, that's quite harrowing. Think you claim everything but the power icon, yes. Because he needs to do the power challenge back. He can't allow Atanas to do a power challenge or get a lead in power. And I think that's the correct decision. I mean, Drogon is good, but he's not amazing in this matchup. And I guess Alex is gonna Vala next turn anyway, so he doesn't really care about the military challenge. And then just getting the power off his opponent's house card, really potent. Makes it also very difficult for Atanas to win in time, should it come to that. I'm not quite sure how many plots are left, but it can't be more than 2, maybe 1 or 2 plots. There's only 1 plot left. Yeah, there's only 1 plot left. And yeah, I think that's Vala Morghulis on Alex. So he did exactly what I thought he would do, which is play the game in the way that he can Vala on turn 7, so he doesn't have to reveal Vala again in this game. So nicely done there. And that makes the military challenge that Atanas did actually very inconsequential, and now it's 3 cards against 3, but Alex has an Iron Throne and a solid power lead, so this is going to be difficult for Atanas. But let's see what he drew. Of course, Alex pondering whether he wants to use the Iron Throne here. Oh, that's a very good draw. But that's not too bad. That is kind of unfortunate though. I was gonna say, if Atanas doesn't have anything that doesn't get bounced by First Snow of Winter, then I think Alex is just fine here because he plays First Snow next turn and bounces everything, and then the card advantage from the Amber Loyal list also doesn't really matter. But now it's tricky. You can't really just play First Snow of Winter anymore. And now it's actually Atanas who has a board position, and Alex has trapped his own Vala. So now it's dicey again. I think you can go First Snow of Winter, but I think yeah, this is really mind gaming now, because if he reveals you win or I was about to say if he reveals you win or you die, you want to reveal First Snow of Winter, but now that's marched. Now Atanas might actually come back here, even though Alex has built up a nice power lead. It's important this turn that Alex somehow manages to stem the bleeding, establish a board position as well that can maybe deal with the you win or you die. Or, of course, on the other hand, Alex could just say, okay, I guess we're even now, and let Atanas do his power challenge this turn, evening up the power score, but on the flip side, not having to commit anything to the board. Probably taking into claim intrigue as well, but then next turn being able to play things into playing his cards when there's not two claim waiting for them. So I think that's a very crucial decision right now that Alex has to make. Whether he wants to actually commit and feels confident to defend the military challenge this turn, or if that's not going to happen. And I think after She-Bear plus Ice, I'm erring on the side of that's not going to happen here. And there's even the 1 gold left, so Atanas might even have the Winter is coming again, which could turn the power challenge into a 3-claim power challenge, which is fairly devastating here. That's a 3-4 power, 7 power swing, if you guess that's true. 4 for him, of course, and -3 for Alex. All right. That was a power challenge for 6, and that worked out fairly well, I suppose. Now we're at 6-5. And no further challenges. Atanas just doesn't want to risk any challenges on the swing back. His other characters both have 3 strength, so Alex could have just burned them if he had burn in his hand. And Atanas just doesn't want Alex to get free value, because this turn he wasn't going to do anything else anyway. And so Atanas says, okay, alright, I'm just going to win dominance with this, and you will have to play your burn on a turn where you don't have that much gold at your disposal, and it actually hurts you. It actually is a tempo hit for you to play burn on that turn. So nicely done by Atanas, I would say. And now I believe it's Alex's turn to get back at Atanas and hopefully push through a military challenge with his 2-claim plot and a power challenge as well. I think this is going to decide the game if he, or at least decide if the game is going to keep going. And he has a choice between ward and ice here. I'm not sure if he has any characters in hand right now that can be warded, but I guess giving Atanas a, at least at the moment, useless dupe for ice might be the better option there. Yeah, I think you have to play for this turn and only this turn right now, and worry about the later turns when it comes to that. It's really about getting back on the board now, and so just giving Atanas a card that he can't play right now to benefit, even though it might be hurtful later. It's probably the right call. And I mean, Alex has probably all the option in the world right now. Let's see if he can actually convert what he has in his hand into an actual advantage here on board. The Begging Brother making it difficult though. I think Alex has already used 2 milks, and I'm not sure if he's running 3. And so this Begging Brother is going to cancel something for sure. And then that makes it really difficult to do anything incredibly impactful here. I see a Varus there, which is obviously quite nice, but again, there's the Begging Brother. And seeing that Atanas last turn was very wary of the fact that Alex might have Burn in his hand, which we as spectators know he does. I don't think Atanas is just going to run the Begging Brother into Burn. He's going to wait calmly and not overcommit. And probably going to hold it back for that Varus, or for a trigger that really matters. I think that's Sir Jason Mellister. And Bear... no, not Bear Island. The plus strength location that Stark has gives plus 1 strength. Yeah, plus. Is it plus 1 or plus 2 strength? I think plus 1 or 2 strength flat, and then plus 3 strength if you have fewer than 3 plots in your use point. Let me just check on that real quick. Cost 1 and type location. Last Hearth. What's the name? Eluded me there. And oh yeah, it's plus 2 strength flat. So quite nice here for Thanos. Yeah. And it looks like there's not much more that Alex can do. Oh, and I see. Just looked away for a second to look up Last Hearth on Thrones to Be. But it appears that Atanas actually did use his Begging Brother, but it doesn't appear like it mattered very much. Can't see where Alex's hand is right now. I guess if he, I guess now Alex can actually Last of the Giants Varys, but he's really paying the iron price for this Varys. A lot of power claimed by Atanas right now, but after this, they're both gonna go back to 0 characters in play. So there's still some play left here for Alex. Let's see if he can pull it back from 6 power to 9. Oh, and now it's actually really nice that Alex gave Atanas the ice, because now Atanas has 2 copies of ice in his hand, which of course don't help you at all. I mean, I didn't pay an exact attention there, but I believe it's a misplay to use the Begging Brother there for the challenge. That must have been intrigue, because that would be the only thing that could solicit Atanas to use the Begging Brother in that challenge, I believe. If you do a power challenge, you just defend with something else. So yeah, that's a Slaver's Bay port. That's pretty nice. And that's a huge-ass army with a power icon. So pretty much exactly what Alex was hoping for here. I think what Atanas is hoping for here is that he drew another Ramsey. Let's see if he managed to achieve that. Doesn't appear like it. And there's Pillage. Alex playing his Pillage style Knights of the Hill extravaganza. Actually trying to mill out his opponent right now. And that was a power and an intrigue challenge, I suppose. Very nice stuff. And now it's back to 9 to 8 power, or 9 to 9 power actually. Oh yeah, and he got him. Nicely done there. I think that's forced Valor there. If you don't have anything in your if you don't have anything in your hand that can beat the army right now, you have to Valor and hope that he doesn't play Return to the Fields. But of course, Alex being aware of that responds perfectly here, and if he just has another couple of characters, he should be able to close this out, I believe. That's especially nice because it returned the freed man to the discard pile, which means he gets to bring them back into play. Alright, I see a Drogon, I believe. I don't believe Drogon is dead, right? He should be able to play that. Oh no, he killed Drogon earlier. I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay, so Missandei died to Vala earlier, and Drogon died to the 3-claim military challenge, so he gets to discard both of those for a Kotho, who gets immediately marriage pacted. Nicely done there. So that actually was a reason to not play around Iron Throne there. But Alex has unexpected return anyway, so he gets to do something. Yeah, and that's gonna be a power challenge that is very difficult to stop. Oh, and Blood of My Blood as well. So he even gets to, yeah, he even gets to get a Blood Rider. Hopefully with a power icon. Yeah, Jogo. And now do a power challenge with Claim 2. And it's going to be another huge swing. That's 9 power for Alex right now. If he steals 2, that's 12 to 7. And pillage as well. And now Atanas doesn't have any reset left. And after it looked very dire here for Alex, he's actually going to pull out successful here, I believe. I don't think there's much more that Atanas can do. No reset anymore. So, actually, even winning, I believe, within the boundaries of the time limit. Currently at 14 power. And now First Snow of Winter should prevent Atanas from flooding the board in order to prevent the challenges here. Oh, and someone is pointing something out. Oh yeah, of course. From Blood of My Blood, Jogo should go back to Alexander's hand. Don't think that hugely matters, but of course we like to keep things clean here in the cut. All right, 1 gold. Search my deck. He's gonna have to rattle off 1 insane chain here if he wants to do anything. But the problem is, you can search for these characters, but they, I think, are just gonna get bounced by First Snow of Winter, right? That is First Snow of Winter on Alex's side, I believe. Maybe it actually isn't. Don't think Atanas would play that if it were First Snow of Winter. I don't think he recognized the card. Yeah, okay, and he realized that's First Snow of Winter, so everything's gonna get bounced. All right. So yeah, very nicely done by Alexander Chiganakis, who advances to the round of 32 and survives the sudden death here in the graduated cut. Very nicely done. Pleasure to watch 2 great players play a very intricate, very back and forth game, control against control. Always a great pleasure to watch something like that. And yeah, hope you had fun too. And we're gonna be back for the cut in just a bit, so stay tuned. All right. And we finally entered the final stretch of the Tournament of Stahleck 2019. And as is tradition, very short streaming tradition, but as is tradition now, we're gonna have Werner in the top 32 match. And if it goes according to tradition, Werner should lose here. But I, of course, am not biased in any way. All right. And of course, we tried. We actually, this is a funny little story. We didn't try to get Werner on the stream, but he naturally just got paired into the most interesting matchup. Because we actually, I don't believe, had any Shadows decks on stream yet. So Werner was just a perfect fit for that. And I don't believe we had Mattel Wars either. So, yeah, this is what we got. This was the most unique, most interesting match. And so we had no choice but to put Werner on again. He put on a good show last year. It was fun. Let's see what he can do this year. Of course, I think the player is still waiting for the sign to start the match. We pretty much rushed from the graduated cut matches into the round of 32 right away. Of course, we still had to do deck checks and the like for the people who came from the graduated cut. But I think it shouldn't be too long before we get started here. Of course, we are now up in the castle, and I'm not alone in a silent corner of the town hall anymore, and I'm surrounded by many friends who join me and correct my mistakes, of which I'm going to do plenty. The first thing that has been pointed out to me, which of course I had to note, which is very important, is that Werner's shades of green within his playmat and his shirt and his sleeves are all just slightly off. All just slightly different shades of green, which definitely we will detract from his style points later. Alright, and now on to the game. Very good start here for Parman, who starts the game off with the Dawn, and on the other side, of course, an Arbor. So also a fairly good start for Werner. And that's what I like to see. Actually, the games so far today, I think, have been superb. I think we had, in round 2, we had kind of a blowout when a Greyjoy deck just rushed down a Valyrian Steel deck. I think Tark Valyrian Steel. But other than that, all the games were fairly close, and in most games, the players actually got to show what their deck was supposed to do, and I think that's all you can ask for. Alright, so one thing about these kind of interesting matchups that we show you is that it's not just an interesting matchup for us, but it's also an interesting matchup for the players, most likely, because they don't get to face because these are the decks that don't occur very often in the field. Those are the decks that they don't have to have a whole lot of practice against on the day. So it's also kind of interesting how players navigate these sort of matches, because they don't necessarily know all of the contents of the opponent's deck. Of course, now Mattel Wars and Tyrell Shadows are fairly established archetypes, but it's always a difference when you're playing the same deck 3 times in a row on the tournament day, or if you are just playing it once and have to sort of get into the rhythm of playing against that deck for just one match. I think it was in 2012 when John Bruno won Worlds with Dark Knights of the Holy Hill, and the other main contenders from the DC meta had all brought Stark No Agenda, I believe, or Stark Winter. And Bruno lost to that in the Swiss, but then beat like 3 or 4 in a row later on in the tournament. And afterwards he said that he actually learned playing against the deck during the tournament day, which I find was always very impressive, and really shows that even if you have a lot of practice against the decks, playing against a specific version or specific iterations of the deck on the tournament over and over again actually still helps refine your play against that. Okay, so back to our game at hand here. Nothing special going on. Very good economy for Werner on the left-hand side, who has pretty much the dream economy. And it's got some cards and shadows to work with. And Parman also deployed very good cards for the matchup. Especially I'm seeing an Iron Throne there, which is whose sole purpose for the entire match is probably going to be naming Unexpected Guile in every single challenger's face. At least that's what I would do. I think Shadows is just much easier to handle if you don't have the unexpected. If you don't have to worry about the Unexpected Guile, takes away a lot of their tricks. And let's see what Werner is going to do about that. I'm not sure if Werner is running any sort of location hate. He might potentially be running Sea Spider Guard. I think that's a possibility. Other than that, I'm not too sure, but I guess we'll figure it out. Some Shadows decks actually run 1 or 2 copies of Lay Siege to get rid of the Iron Throne. Which is not bad, because most decks are playing Gates of the Moon anyway. So it's very likely that you find a target for it, and even just kneeling a location in a pinch can be okay and worth a card. So those might be one of the options available to Werner here or later on in the game. Other than that, I think it's really important what kind of Shadows tech does Parman have. I think if he doesn't have any Shadows tech, then tech against Shadows, it might still be difficult if Werner has a way to deal with the Iron Throne. Alright, that's a good pull. I mean, Begging Brother, one of the better cards in the matchup for the Mattel, of course. Because every ability on Werner's side of the field is pretty much character-based. And it's surprisingly annoying to get rid of a Begging Brother, unless you have a Milk or something like that. Which, you're hard-pressed to run in Shadows, because the deck slots are already very tight. Alright, so both players establishing a little bit of board presence here. Nothing too spectacular. And we're going to see where Werner wants to take it from here. At least I watched a couple of games when there was nothing to cast early on the day. And I don't believe I saw Starry Sepp for Werner or... so he might be focused. He might be a little more focused on just putting out characters and using perhaps general attrition, but not having a power stealing module. Of course, that might be false. Maybe he just didn't draw that in the games that I saw. So, if that is the case, then it's actually important for Werner to get some presence on the board and do challenges, which sometimes Shadow decks just don't do at all. They just deploy everything into Shadows and then Valor away the opposing board and then start draining their power or something like that. But of course, that's kind of risky against Wars because the Wars player might be playing Exposed Duplicity. I think that's one of the decks where you can actually run the plot without jeopardizing your Night's Watch Valyrian Steel matchup or the Valyrian Steel matchups in general too much. And that's a good one. Okay, the Dawn doesn't really matter. Wonder what he chose. That's gotta be for 3, right? That's the only card in Palm's discard pile. Oh, that actually discarded nothing. But I mean, now at least he can be sure that there are no Begging Brothers to come this turn. And he now knows that the contents of Palm's hand, of course. So always useful. Alright, now is about the time where my opponent would just get a Begging Brothers off of the top of the deck. Let's see if Werner shares my luck there. Doesn't appear like it because if I were Palmer, I would slam Begging Brothers if I had it. Alright, just the usual Martell Wars good stuff. Big armies with Intimidate. Just setting up the board. Playing as many of his cards from his hand to make sure that he doesn't go over reserve if he triggers Dawn a couple more times. I mean, he has Dawn, and he can produce a lot of strength right now and replenish his hand. But you still have to be at least somewhat aware of what you are committing to the board. You don't want to find yourself in a spot where you commit just a certain style of characters to the board, like only military intrigue icons or only power icons, and then get valid and not have access to a sufficient amount of that kind of character anymore. So that's something you have to keep in mind. Even if you have all the resources and all the cards you could think of, still valid. It's still very important to think, what am I actually deploying? What do I need this turn? So as to make sure that you don't maneuver yourself into a bad position after a reset or something like that. And of course, taking a more active approach, gives Werner also an opportunity, or allows Werner to play around exposed stability to a certain degree by bringing cards out of shadow. Makes sure that if Palmer has like a bar in the gates into exposed stability, Werner still has at least a little bit of board presence. He can oppose challenges and doesn't lose too quickly during that time. Also played an old gate there, which enables him to bring sparrows out of shadows, because old gate has the 7th trait. So you can move power to the old gate, and it's fairly difficult to remove from the game. It's a fairly safe location for that power. I think if I had to make a prediction, I would say that this might go on for a little while, a little bit back and forth without major incidents, and then it's really going to come down if Palm can push through a big Doran's game later in the game. Yeah, that's an intimidate. And still has an intrigue and a power challenge left. That's the Dark Star that can take away an icon of the character he stealthed. So let's see what he is going to do with him. I could see doing an intrigue challenge here and just taking away the power icon from the from the Marauders, perhaps. Don't think taking away the military icon does very much right now. Yeah. That's just a fairly safe challenge. Still has some characters back to oppose. Doesn't really care if he loses any challenges right now. He's got Dawn to replenish his hand if he loses intrigue, and that's in general gonna improve the quality of his hand. And I have no idea what that event is. Ah, okay. Okay. Currently getting confirmation what event Werner just played. But we're thinking it's Faith's Degree, which believe allows him to kneel a location and making it impossible to trigger, but we're double checking. Ah, okay. So, if Werner has a some sort of a 7 card, he can play the Faith's Degree to name a non-plot, non-agenda card, and that card's effect cannot be triggered until the end of the turn, which is of course very potent against Dawn, because I mean, you know it's sitting there and it disables it for a turn, which can be quite a card advantage swing. He brought out the Assassin because it's likely not going to have any targets this game. And there is a Viper's Eyes. All right. Yeah, still fairly even, but the thing is, as the game progresses, I'm a little bit scared for Werner because it's really dangerous once Palm gets up to like 5 or 6 plots, because you really need to defend every intrigue challenge for at least 5, or prevent the Doran's gain in some way. And if Palm can push through one of the Doran's games, it's going to be incredibly difficult to deal with for Werner, I believe. Especially because there's already an iron thrown out, so recycling sparrows is not going to be as easy. Yeah. Yeah, it is being pointed out that Werner probably needs Old Town City to stay in the game here, because it appears that he's lacking draw at the moment. I don't think he has any cards in hand. Yeah. I'd really like to see a card drawing plot for Werner here. Not sure if he has one. Perhaps something like you win or you die, or just good old counting coppers, which is falling a bit out of favor recently. But it doesn't appear to be an easy decision, which means that I don't think he has a straight up draw option. And there's Valor Harris against Manning the Wall. Oh, very interesting. I like that we picked this match. Haven't seen Manning the Wall in a competitive game yet, so kind of nice to see that. And wait, did Werner win initiative? He should have won initiative, right? And what exactly is happening now? Huh. I am correct when I'm saying that Manning has won initiative, right? Okay. I think Werner made Palm first play, and Palm, of course, chose the Valar Harris to go first, and then put a 6-card army into play. So that worked out pretty nicely for Plowman. Kind of unfortunate there. Believe Werner should probably have gone first. But you can't change that anymore. But to be fair, I think I'm saying this every time I'm doing this, but I mean, at this point it's 30 past 12 in the morning here, so these players are going to make mistakes. It's just natural. They've been playing all day, and even though it's high stakes, you simply can't play your best every single game here. I think that's impossible, and Unfortunately, in the later rounds of the day, a lot of matches are decided by who makes the less egregious mistakes. So that's just kind of the nature of things. At least we now have the cut across 2 days, so the players get to at least catch some sleep and return back tomorrow for the top 8. But the top 32 and top 16 are still being played on the same day as the Swiss. So that's kind of the mental fortitude you need in order to participate and win here. But I mean, not all is lost here. That was certainly not optimal, but what can you do? I think you still just need to go through the motions here, oppose the challenges, and hope you can find an opening as winner. Not sure if Werner actually has Unexpected Guile in Shadows right now, but I wouldn't be surprised if he had a copy in there. Might want to consider bringing it out in Dominance or something like that, just to at least get one trigger next turn or something. Oh, there's an Unexpected Guile. I guess Palm didn't name it this challenger's phase. Okay. So that's quite nice for Werner. Alright, and now here's where the Mattel shenanigans really start. Plus 3 strength right now, and an additional icon for the dude. And that's only gonna get worse. But of course the exchange not as bad for Werner. He still gets to remove the character from the challenge, with a spy there, and draw a card now off of Insight, which I think he desperately needs. And of course, just preventing the power challenge, I think that was gives Werner a little bit of breathing room. Means it's not just keeping Palm of any kind of power is very important, because, as already mentioned, Palm can explode in a late game, which Werner really can't. And so, if time is called in the round and Palm is down 5 power, that might not even matter if Palm gets to push through one intrigue challenge and ends the game right there with a Dorian's game. So just any piece of power that Werner can deny is actually very important here. And I know, I think Werner's posturing for his own challenges here. Let's see what he's going to do. I think there's no harm in doing a couple of challenges. You have to weigh your options with the Dawn always, of course. I think at least power should be worth it. I don't know. And we know that Werner still has Unexpected Goal, so that's gonna come into play here. And yeah, and that was +3 strength, so 5, and I believe 4 on Werner's side. Now in for either military or intrigue. And if Werner can't bring out another character out of shadows, the Starfall is going to prevent the last challenge. And dominance is probably going to Parman here. Alright, just defends the old-fashioned way, and yeah, that's the Starfall preventing the last challenge, potentially. Just thinking about it. Alright. Let's see, let's see if Werner has another character to do the last challenge with. It's a Varus. It's not too bad.
Zie nu houdt hij hem in zijn buik. Hij voelt het. And then we did it.
I mean, it's not very likely that Varus gets anything done anytime soon against the.
Maar die speler maakt ook een fout. Die speelde de Ares into City Plot die een army neergooit. Toen maakte die andere gast vult. Ja, dat is wel ja. Ik los de Ares op en zoek dan wel een army gaat. Ja, die bijna die dikke gasten zo.
Fairly interesting now. Werner can't really play First Snow of Winter, I think. And there is exposed duplicity. Oh, that stings. And is that an alternate art Vala there for Werner? That's nasty. Just a combination of Vala and not being able to do anything this turn. Everything's getting discarded. And now Werner is left with 2 cards in hand, and potentially won't even be able to trigger the gate to draw more cards. That was brutal. I mean, if you're playing wars, might as well play the decks, play the plots that really hurt in certain matchups. I mean, that's the power of wars. That's why it's restricted. So, fair enough there, but kind of a heartbreaker for Werner. I mean, at a certain point, when you realize that the game is going to be very close, at some point you have to decide that you can't play around something like exposed duplicity anymore, and that's just the nature of the game. Sometimes you get paired up against a deck that has the counter. Alright. Well, but it turns out I was wrong. I just didn't see the story step from Werner before. And there it is. Not sure how much it's gonna do right now, but it certainly exists. So that's the thing. Werner with a couple of gold left. Now, what can Plowman do to repopulate the board is the real question here. Let's have a look. For example, if he doesn't have a power icon, I think Werner might actually still be in it. But not sure if there's gonna be such luck for Werner here. Alright, he's gonna kneel that one. I think it's not a bad choice to do that immediately, marshalling in the face of an Iron Throne and potential for more begging brothers. The problem is that Palmer still has 5 gold up, so that's a potential Aria Hotel, that's a potential Southern Messenger, which could come in after a Starfall trigger. All sorts of shenanigans possible here. And of course, there's also the possibility that Palm just says, well, thank you for attacking me, I'm just going to take back these 2... okay, I'm going to take one of your cards from your hand, and I'm going to return my 2 powerful 2-cost events. Alright, takes a Faith Degree there. Just wants to make sure that he can activate his Starfall no matter what, to give him some security, I suppose. And yeah, now he has access to more icons, more strength again, making pretty much any character he draws into a fierce fighting force. Alright, and that's a good Ariota. Gets nailed once again. That was very nice. I think it was probably... I don't know if the best card Werner could have had there in Shadows, but certainly one of the better ones. Doesn't actually look so bad right now. 9 power to 1. It's just that it still feels like the game is slipping away from Werner, even though he's accumulating power. It's really about, can Palm pull it back now and make sure that he just creates a board state that Werner cannot overcome, now that he's already used his Valar Dohaeris and his Valar Morghulis. Okay, so that's probably going to be another triggering for the Manning from Palm here. And Werner's going to super win dominance this turn. Oh, but not before Palman puts in an army to draw 3 cards getting some 1.0 flashbacks over here. Man, the Viper's Bannermen were such a fun card.
Ik had zelfs een paar keer dat ik aan mezelf ging ruiken of ik het was. Toen dacht ik,
Ja, ik had het ook een keer, maar toen liep ik waarschijnlijk iemand langs.
Alright. But Werner seems energetic, deploys cards into shadows. At least he has some game here. Or at least it looks like it. And I mean, he's got a lot of gold, so if he has more cards that he can put into shadows and bring out of shadows, and he can sift through his deck, that way he will be able to play a lot of cards because he has the gold to do it. And there's a Sparrows, yeah. Werner might actually pull it back. That might actually be another Sparrows. And, oh no. Ah, he returns the Sparrows back to Shadows. That's the other option, of course. And then he can bring out the Shadows, the Sparrows again to get another power. But, oh, his opponent actually doesn't have another point of power on his house card that he can steal. So, that was kind of unfortunate there. I think Werner missed that. But, I mean, still not the worst turn. I mean, Werner is now up to, what is it? 10 power to his opponent's 0. But again, this looks like it's not very close right now, but it's actually really close because you have to consider that those are 5 plots in Palmer's Joust pile, and he can give any character plus 5 strength for 2 gold. And then on top of that, he has 2 additional plots from Ricasso, which is going to up that strength count to plus 7. And if he gets through, if he pushes through even one Doran's game, the game is blown wide open. So Werner definitely doesn't have time to relax here. Definitely a hard-fought game, and I thought for a second that Palmer had it very comfortably when he reduced Werner to no cards and shadows and no cards on the board, with only like 1 card in hand. But it's a really close game right now, I think, between Werner trying to push for victory probably now and controlling, at least controlling in the sense how he's losing to Palmer's board. But then on the other hand, Palmer trying to finally get some power, push through some challenges and hopefully finishing it with a big Doran's game. So actually, very interesting game right now. Yeah, looks like that's gonna be an intrigue challenge. And the intrigue challenge yeah. He blanked Ricasso there for 1 power. But from the Starry Sept. But that's still 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 power. And now we see what we was talking about. Yeah. We're now losing fairly quickly here, and he doesn't have Vala left, so this is gonna be fairly difficult to deal with. What's the play here if you're Werner? I think it's just draw more sparrows. that might be your only hope. Just draw 2 more copies of sparrows and prolong the game. Perhaps find another copy of Varus. That would certainly help. Varus on Ricasso. It looks like march to the wall for Werner there. Of course, we're going to find out in a second. Yeah, looks like it's marched. And Palm kneeling in 2 of Werner's locations, but that doesn't really matter. Now, this is going to be fairly difficult to deal with.
He's doing a try-hard mode.
Alright, there's a sparrows. It's not the worst. Means he also gets to look at a couple of cards, perhaps find a Varus. Problem is that Varus also costs a lot of money right now because there are no cards in Shadows at all. Oh, that's very good for Werner. There's an Iron Throne. So now he can name Doran's game and at least be safe from that for the rest of the game. Yeah. I mean, Werner's not going to win any challenges again this game, I believe. Unless we go 2 more plots or so and Palm has to Vala himself, which I don't believe is going to happen. And now it's 10 power for Werner, but he's not gonna go anywhere with this board. Kind of painful now. Military to claim, I suppose. And there's a 2-claim power challenge with Renown unopposed, so going up to 9, 11, 12 now. 12 plus another 1 from the next unopposed challenge. And then dominance for 14, and we're in really dire territory. One power left. Don't think you can do anything here as Werner. There's no way to deal with the sport without Vala Mogulis. Yeah, even return to the fields in case he had Vala. So Oh yeah, sacrificing. Return to the fields to sacrifice Housdane Escort. Gotta get that value in.
Draw for X amount of slots. Nothing in charge.
Oh well. I think it was a fairly entertaining game for the first 4 plots or so. I think. Yeah, just the early Iron Throne was very key here. Disrupting Werner in the first couple of turns, not being able to play the unexpected guiles, and then it just didn't click well enough for Werner. He didn't get to chain Sparrows with the unexpected guile after it got discarded for exposed to Publicity, and it just the sequence of events there was kind of unfortunate for Werner. Of course, there were also a few play mistakes here and there, but I don't think besides maybe the manning the wall mistakes, it mattered greatly. So, what can you do? What do you actually name here? Probably Varus. I know, not sure what is going to happen. It's another Bolton player. We're not gonna go through the motions here. Man, I was joking about tradition and that Werner had to go out in the round of 32 again. But this still kind of sucks for him. Alright, but I mean, that's the game. Only one can win because you either win or you die, right? And that's it for the round of 32 for now. Don't know how much time exactly we have left in the round of 32, but it can't be more than like 10 minutes. I think we're gonna get the next round started immediately after, so at most in like 20 minutes or so, I think we're gonna have the next round. So stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching, and see you then. All right. Back for the last round here on day 1 of the Stahleck 2019 Joust Championship. This is the top 16. And again, we were lucky. We had one matchup that doesn't have Valyrian Steel or Targaryen. Oh, wait, it has Targaryen. But it doesn't have Valyrian Steel on either side. So we decided to bring you that. And on the left-hand side, we have the only remaining Lannister player, Ryus, who's playing Lannister Shadows, of course, because everything else out of Lannister is rubbish at the moment. And on the right-hand side, we have Andrea, who is playing Targaryen Sea of Blood, which we actually haven't seen on stream today yet. So I'm quite excited for this one. And this could really go... this could really be any kind of game. It could be a bit more of a grindy game, or if Andrea comes out of the gates really quickly, he might just crush Ryus as well, and then we get to end the day early because it's already kind of late here. So I wouldn't complain about that either. But of course, most of all, I just want to see an enjoyable last match of the day here. Just as a quick piece of intel, the round of 8 is going to be played tomorrow, and when I say tomorrow, I mean in about 7 hours from now. So that the players at least get a little bit of rest, and then I think we'll have the finals at, if you just want to tune in for the finals are going to be probably at about 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. I'd say. Alright, on to the game. Let's do this. So... well, right off the bat, I think fairly decent start here for Ryus, who's got the Alchemist Guild Hall, which is pretty much the new version of the 1.0 Lannister Iron Throne. Cancels any character ability by returning to shadows, which is kind of nice against Targaryen in general. Prevents the Aegon triggers, which is usually just 3 gold for another 6 strength or so for military challenge. So that's quite nice that Ryus had that on setup. And he also has a fairly decent spread of economy locations already, which means he's not gonna depend on, say, a Soul Gates of the Moon, which can easily be taken out by a put to the sword. So he's got some resources to work with here, which means that the game shouldn't just end on the first turn, which is always kind of a bummer. Of course, now Andrea is in this tricky spot where he has to assess how much he wants to commit to the board, because obviously right now Race's board is empty, so doing a military challenge doesn't do a whole lot. I mean, you can get rid of that Gates of the Moon if you win by 5, that's fine, but you have to weigh your options here. You need to win pretty much exactly by 5. That's the optimal scenario. You have to present exactly enough strength that Reyes cannot defend. But you must make sure that you do not overcommit to the board and then just get valid without Reyes doing anything. Okay, so there is a Quotha trigger. Now, is Reyes actually going to bring out that Alchemist Guild Hall immediately again? Or is he going to be content with sitting on 4 gold for now? Andrea is still having Quotha in hand now, of course. He discarded 2 cards, but got rid of the Guild Hall. But we also got to see the power of the Guild Hall there. Already generating an advantage. And Andrea decides to just drop the Quotha with a dupe on it, which is quite nice. Alright. And now it's back to Rios, because now that Andrea has presented an amount of strength that he deems sufficient to push through military by 5, now Reyes has to decide, is it actually worth to prevent this military challenge from going through by 5? Because I doubt that you can actually win the military challenge, and then it becomes an interesting question. Do you want a character to basically just die to make sure that Andrea doesn't win by 5? Or do you actually allow him to win here by 5? Because you deem the other cards and shadows and your characters more valuable than your economy location, let's say. Yeah. But I mean, with another 4 strength for Andrea here, I don't think it's gonna be easy to prevent the military challenge for 5. Though Andrea is going for an intrigue, so... Not sure what that card was. Do you guys know what this alternate art card is? The one that the Lannister Shadow players just... okay, thanks. Okay, so the alternate art card that Ray's just brought out of Shadows is Robert Strong, which killed the intrigue attacker there. But Andrea has another one of those, and now he's coming in for military. But Robert Strong does a fairly good job at preventing the by 5 winning trigger. So I think that overall was a successful turn for Reyes. Even though Andrea presented a lot of strength, he still didn't manage to push through a military challenge. Still though, I have to see which kind of plot lineup Reyes is running to be able to access the situation correctly here, I believe. The thing is, you can't really Vala because Quotha has a dupe, which makes this a little tricky. I mean, 8 strength just barely doesn't defend the military challenge by 5, so maybe you can muster a bit of additional strength. And again with the alternate art plots, the hell did Andrea just reveal? I mean, whatever plot he just revealed seems to provide a lot of gold. Let's count here. 4, 8, 10, 11. Looks like 11 gold. So perhaps, or 12 gold. Perhaps late summer feast. Might be late summer feast. Not entirely sure though. Now again, Andrea presenting a very deadly power challenge here, kind of threatening. Also with stealth on Jogo now, so Robert Strong not necessarily going to be of any help here. Let's see if Reyes has an answer to this. At the moment, it's really just about, can Andrea push through one military challenge by 5 and get the ball rolling? Because once you win a military challenge by 5 and you blow up the first economy location, it becomes much easier to win the second military challenge by 5, and then you really get the ball rolling and you can start snowballing. So Reyes, of course, has got to be aware of that. He's putting a lot of cards into shadows. No respect for the explosivity here, but I guess he figures that someone who runs explosivity in a 7-plot deck would probably not have made it to the round of 16. And of course, Raya still has 6 gold left. So if he has the Lannister event that returns every card, that returns any number of cards to shadows, he could return Robert Strong after he gets stealth, for example, by Jogo, and then kill an attacking character to reduce the attacking strength in the military challenge by a substantial amount, basically 4 strength at least, and then defend for 8, which makes it difficult for Andrea to attack appropriately here without overcommitting. Let's see what we're going to see here. This is military for 11 and stealth on Robert Strong, of course. Not sure what that is. Man, all of these alternate art cards. Oh, I guess that's a Knight of Flowers, because he just stood that after he brought a card out of shadows. And that's strength 5 plus another 4 strength, so... Uh, 11 against 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think I'm missing something. Oh, perhaps he didn't go in for military with all of the guys, and one of them was an intrigue challenge or something like that. Because I think 11 should have been sufficient to win against the Knight of Flowers with just the attachment. But I think it's probably not military challenge with all three of them. And now it's actually looking quite nice for Reyes here. He stabilized the board. I believe he just returned Robert Strong to his hand with a... the Iron Bank will have its due, so he's going to have access to that again next turn. Really, Robert Strong being the MVP here makes it so difficult to push through military challenges. And now Andrea is in this awkward position where he has to commit much more to the board if he wants to push through military. But at this point, it's not even that great to win the military anymore. Because it's very unlikely that he's going to get the military by 5. And Robert Strong is just going to kill a character every turn now. Assuming, of course, that Reyes strings together events that can return Robert Strong into shadows or back to his hand, of course. But I mean, Lannister has quite a few ways to do that. Okay, so I think Andrea sees the writing on the wall here. He knows he has to make something happen soon, otherwise he's just gonna get crushed by the card advantage that Reyes is generating. So you win or you die here, but Reyes counters with a Vala to Harris, which will make it incredibly difficult for Andrea to push through a military challenge with the appropriate amount of strength. I mean, Reyes played this very well, I must say. No matter the outcome, he knows precisely what he needs to do, and which cards are the most important cards in the matchup. Specifically, Robert Strong, and to a lesser degree, the Knight of Flowers, both of which allow him to defend the military challenges and potentially even multiple military challenges. And I mean, it always helps if you set up a decent amount of economy and you can play all your free cards. So certainly that is an element of it as well. But so far, it looks like the classic Sea of Blood game where you don't get to trigger the agenda a single time, and then you kind of slowly lose control over the game. But let's see. He still has Andrea still has 3 gold left. Perhaps he can ambush something in, or play a blood of his blood. Blood of my blood to get a little bit more military strength on the board.
Who's the Lion player? Some Czech player. Who's this Targler? Some Italian player. I don't see a world where the Lion player loses. You can watch this for like 20 minutes, but like the Lion player's gonna win. I don't know. Yeah, the Lion player's gonna win. You don't want him to win. It's fine. I'm good at this game, and everyone else is shit. Oh,
It's kind of nice. It's gonna kneel another character and gives Rares more options with the strength bombs, strength buffs. And of course, just having another 0-cost card in Shadows means a free stand for the Knight of Flowers. And I believe if Reyes wins this turn, he might just win the game with that, because Andrea will have to discard his entire hand, and then his board right now is actually not that impressive. Assuming, of course, that Reyes still has that Robert Strong that I was showing earlier, that I believe he returned to his hand. Andreas has 1 gold left, but no dragons on the board, so Dracarys is not an option. And there's a Knight of Flowers, which is, if he teams up with the Robert Strong, goes up to 13 power, plus the attachment is 15 power. So that should theoretically be enough to win the military challenge and avoid the claim 2 this turn. And of course there's still the Guild Hall to prevent any sort of shenanigans. Ray's deliberating here. I'm not sure if you want to go in for a challenge. If that 1 gold that Andreas has represents a nightmares, then that could hurt. Incidentally, where did the 1 gold he had go? Maybe it's hidden somewhere on the plot. Can't really make it out. I mean, if Andrea doesn't have any gold, then I don't think there's a reason not to do a challenge, because the Knight of Flows is going to stand anyway once the attachment comes out of Shadows or Robert Strong. The thing is, technically you can trigger Sea of Blood on defense, but the problem is that the attachment gives gives the Knight of Flowers just enough strength to win, to not lose the challenge by 5 anyway. As Robert Strong on Quotho. Now Valar is an option, and on the other side, Andrea can't Valar anymore, really, without losing his entire board. And since he's gonna have to discard his hand at the end of the turn, that would leave him with literally nothing left to work with.
And then Nami was supposed to lead the draft today, but he's caught up in the Joust, so I have to leave that now. Well,
It's more renown. And actually, between the renown and just the challenges Reyes is doing, he's actually accumulating power at a fairly alarming rate here for Andrea, which only adds to the problems Andreas has to face right now. Alright, catches a little bit of a break there. Sunday being discarded for entry claim. Guess doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things though, because he would have had to discard her anyway. Tough board here, because even if Andrea is playing Vala, he can't really play Vala. I mean, I guess he would be forced to reveal Vala if he had it, just to prevent the Knight of Flowers from going absolutely crazy. But just don't think that does it. And return to the fields is also kind of anemic here. I mean, Missandei and the Freedmen pretty much don't do anything, so you might as well sacrifice them. Hope for a good draw, I suppose. But I don't think there's anything. Don't think there are many things you can draw here that help against this super-powered Knight of Flowers, actually. And there's the Marauders. And Dry's gonna choose wisely. Have a look at the discard pile here. Andreas' discard pile, and he's gonna try and figure out what the card is that he wants. Oh, and I think he chose Khal Drogo and discarded 2 copies of Recaro there. That's quite brutal. Yeah, he decided what are the only cards I can actually lose to, and I think he came to the conclusion perhaps there's some combination of like Khal Drogo or something like that. That could be annoying. Like, I don't know, Khal Drogo plus the Eric that lets him not kneel on the first military challenge. And so he decided to go for 6 there and hit twice, which is gonna speed up Andreas' demise even further here. Yeah, and that's it. Alright. Bit of an uneventful game. Here in the round of 16, last game of the day. And I'm not just saying it was uneventful because Andrea didn't get to trigger the Sea of Blood once. But yeah, that's gonna do it for today. Thanks so much for watching. The game plan for tomorrow is we're gonna start the top 16, the top 8 at I believe 9 o'clock, barring any delays. Perhaps like 9:30 at the latest, and then we're gonna have top 8, semi-finals, and finals right after each other. And I'm actually not going to be doing the commentary for the quarterfinals and the semi-finals. Those are going to be provided to you by the guys over from the White Walkers channel, which I greatly appreciate, because it's quite taxing on the voice to be talking for an entire day and then sleep for only 3 hours or 4 hours and then talk for another 6 hours straight. So that's very much appreciated, and I hope you enjoy that. They're more about the banter and less about the stupid puns that I do. So that might be quite a nice change of pace. And yeah, I'm gonna be back for the finals for sure, and then we'll have a look if I am going to cast together with the guys from the White Walkers, and we do a big group cast and how that works out with the microphone. But we'll see how that works out tomorrow. So for now, thanks so much for watching. This was the first day here at Stahleck Joust Championship 2019, and gonna see you tomorrow.